There are two things that I wanted to say before I start this movie's review. Number one, I love the Looney Tunes. I watched them when I was a kid. I still remember them fondly. Sometimes I go back to some of their cartoons, and amazingly enough, they still hold up even to this day. Some of them do, some of them don't. Most notably, I like the good old classics. Number two, I like basketball. I used to play them as a kid, although it wasn't exactly my forte because sports was never my thing. Usually, I was kinda, how can I say, into the sport due to extracurricular classes, stuff. But I can say that I did enjoy playing basketball more than other sports, considering that I am Latin American, and most Latin Americans normally love to play soccer. But honestly I found a little bit more enjoyment on playing basketball. So with that all said, with these two things combined, you of course know that I'm gonna talk about Space Jam. Well, in this case, this is a review that I'm gonna talk about the new movie that came out, which is Space Jam: A New Legacy. But before that, I also want to tell you that I do remember that the original film, Space Jam, the one with the Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan, I did like it as a kid. So basically, what I can remember is that when that film came out in the 90s, I was technically a middle schooler at that point of my life, but I still was very, very, very into the movie because, well, it was just Looney Tunes, and I do remember watching it over and over and over again, and I really like it. I didn't technically just second thought about it, mostly because it was Looney Tunes. They're enjoyable, so there's no. We just kind of go in very blindly with it. And years have happened, and you know that when we grow up, sometimes we realize the error of our ways, and sometimes we see, oh my God, what we got into it, why we like that stuff. Fortunately, Space Jam for the 90s film, well, not a lot of things hold up. The last time I saw it, it was last year. It's still a guilty pleasure, but it's also an interesting time capsule because you notice that despite its faults, and despite it's kind of like its marketing goal, there was some kind of charm in it. Not very good, but still, you can tell that it is fondly remembered because some of the Looney Tunes shenanigans. It's not every day that you see a live action actor interacting with cartoon characters. It had an awesome soundtrack, even R. Kelly's "I Believe I Can Fly," in which no matter how much stuff you say about this singer and how he went a little bit downhill, you can't deny that song is technically very catchy, as well as the kick-ass Space Jam theme. And also, let's not forget that Space Jam also introduced Lola Bunny, which technically became kind of like a mainstream on the on Looney Tunes. And honestly, I've seen the evolution of that character, and sometimes it went for the better. But anyway, up to this day, I still consider the original Space Jam a time capsule of the 90s. It's really a 90s movie. But now we got this one, Space Jam: A New Legacy. I saw the trailer and honestly, it had a lot of the things that kind of began to worry me, like the modern to try hard hipster trying to look cool humor. They had, of course, the kind of like the plot that I felt like, uh-oh. Then, of course, we got that this one's gonna star Lebron James. Although I heard stuff about this guy, but I kind of not want to implement a lot about LeBron James as basically a basketball player or as a person himself. Mostly because truth to be told, I don't know LeBron James. I have almost zero knowledge about this guy. The only thing that the trailer told me about this guy is that he's a terrible voice actor and a terrible actor himself. Well, even Michael Jordan has a level of terribleness. I think that there is technically kind of like a curse on every single basketball player that apparently when you become a basketball player and you become so good at it, you kind of get hit by a curse that you're gonna get promotions to become a movie star, but your acting abilities are less than desirable. But still, and also it didn't help that the movie had its fair share of controversies. But even with those, it kind of comes to kind of like a certain fascination with me to watch a controversial film, because I want to. It's technically kind of like this curiosity to know why, and I went there a little bit open-minded, but at the same time really worried, considering how a lot of the Warner animation movies, how they were lately. And the trailer gave me kind of like very little hope, but sometimes it can be deceiving. And from what I can tell you is that after I watched the movie, and even I came back with taking some notes while I was doing the movie. See, I took notes in the dark to see if there's some things that I forgot or something like that. I review it a little. And I'm gonna be 100% honest with this movie. Space Jam: A New Legacy is probably the most narcissistic film I have seen this year. It's so full of itself that it harms the movie a lot. It's probably kind of like it's kind of like the same feeling in which you go on a party and then comes technically kind of like the smuggest, richest person in the world saying that, hey, I'm the most important person in the world, I got all the money and all the properties of all the world, and you kind of give out kind of like this dagger in the eyes, and man, that it feel like that. It's you know what? That probably could be kind of like an emotional review from me, but the movie wasn't good. Honestly, personally, I came out with this movie a little bit kind of having this mixture of disappointment, a little mixture of disgust, and although I don't want to say that I technically hated this movie, because when it's about Warner Brothers and animated films, this year I already have the bar really, really low. Ever since I saw that Tom and Jerry movie. Tom and Jerry movie is technically the lowest you can go. And I probably might say that there are ways that you can go even lower than Tom and Jerry. But luckily, Space Jam doesn't reach that low bar, but it almost comes close to that. And that is not a good sign. Not a good sign. So anyway, I think it is time for me to talk about why I do have problems with Space Jam, A New Legacy of Vanity. So imagine that the movie starts out almost also like the other film, in which we got young Lebron James, obviously played by an actor, and he is in kind of like in this basketball school, and the kid apparently he I don't know if he was given or he got back his Game Boy, and he's playing Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle, and then the coach sees him. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing? No video games." You know, kind of like the typical angry guy who, when you discover video games, they're saying that they're gonna rot your brain. Mostly because young Lebron James technically is not. He kind of fumbles until the coach comes and say that, hey, this is how you're getting distracted by this. You can't do that. You have to focus. You must work for it. You want to be kind of like the best basketball player in the world. And then young LeBron James makes the biggest mistake in his life. He chucked a Game Boy to the garbage. In which, first of all, I don't know if I missed something, but dude, that's pretty rude. First of all, I don't think that Game Boy is yours. So you technically chuck somebody else's Game Boy on the garbage. And second of all, you miss an opportunity because Game Boy actually became very popular, and you should see the evolution of Nintendo. Actually, that Game Boy, he could have taken better care of it. He might gonna get millions, but of course, just like the first movie, we get kind of like a montage of LeBron James' accomplishments in basketball during the opening credits. The only difference is that he has a lousy soundtrack. An even really forgettable soundtrack that I won't even forget it. And then we jumped out to his immense big mansion where we see some of his fake children playing basketball. And the movie technically focused on Don James, the supposedly fake son of LeBron James, but instead he's played by this guy named Cedric Joe. Basically, this kid is distracted with video games instead of training for basketball because there's a coach there. He's playing like this knockoff PlayStation Vita, and then LeBron James comes and say, "Hey, what are you doing with the video game? You're getting distracted. You gotta focus on basketball. I'm gonna train you to become a basketball." And from this point on, it comes up my first impression of LeBron James. And it stays there during the whole movie. And that impression is, he's an asshole. He's an incredible asshole. And he started out not just an asshole, he's a tyrannical asshole with his son, because he's kind of like, apparently the kind of like the introduction of the movie technically kind of begins to say that LeBron James has a grudge against video games. So because his son technically is more interested on coding and making video game designs instead of video gaming. Sorry, I remember to have my glasses there. And man, man, it felt kind of like in the first, and I'm talking that this is kind of like the first minute, and then it comes off kind of like my nitpick in which the movie tries to become a little bit cartoonish when you see I think it was the coach getting hit by basketballs, and let me tell you guys, I don't think that's gonna work if you kind of wanted to make it kind of like a division between live action and cartoons, because here's one thing. I'm telling you by experience that being hit by basketballs in the head, it hurts. It freaking hurts. I played while playing basketball. I was hit in the head by these things. I even had sometimes that my finger doesn't grab the ball correctly, and you feel the pain of the muscles. They hurt. And by the way, I was also accidentally headbutt in the jaw while trying to catch a ball. And up to this day, I feel I have some chips on my teeth. And sometimes the calcium technically just it needs to be renewed. And let me tell you, that experience, I still remember that it's painful. So I know that it could be funny for an epic fail video, but for this one that wanted to become a little bit kind of like a live action cartoon, for some reason it doesn't work for me. And by the way, I'm dragging this thing out when I'm supposed to do my best to talk about the movie, and I haven't even got there. So basically, yeah, we get technically the things that Lebron James is an asshole of a dad. He's forcing his son, who wants to be a video game designer, to become a basketball player when he's not interested in it. Then LeBron James he takes his son to the Warner Brothers studio because they want to present kind of like a new algorithm, a new program called WB3000, in which we have all these corporate assholes having these fake ass smiles. And apparently the world of the computer world is technically the Matrix, because the algorithm is technically literally a sentient AI, literally with the name Algorithm, and he's played by, Don Chiaro, who the first time I saw him was like, where did I see that dude? And during the whole movie I was like, where do I see this dude? Until I finally saw IMDb, and I was like, oh, he was War Machine from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'll get to that, but basically they wanted to incorporate LeBron James in these Warner Brothers properties like Harry Potter. He also killed Batman and also participate in Game of Thrones, in which thank goodness they didn't make a reference to the season 8. But while the son is like, hey, that's nice, Dad, and the guy's like, no, I don't like it. It feels rejected. The son also expressed that he wants to be a coder, and he's also interested to go to an E3 video game camp, which I want to know if there's such thing like an E3 video game camp. But LeBron James is like, no, you're not going there. You're going to basketball summer camp. Which of course it brings tension to these two, but of course the algorithm is very pissed off at LeBron James so much that it somehow has the power to lead both LeBron James and his fake son to the computer room to get transported Matrix style into the virtual world. I think it was called Virtual Verse. I don't even know, but anyway, technically, algorithm technically kidnaps, quote unquote, the son and tells LeBron James, hey, you think you're better than me? So how about this? Let's make a wager. I'm gonna give your son back, and I'm gonna return you to your real world if you can beat me in a basketball game. So you have this little amount of time. So do what you want to hear. Make your team. So I'm gonna send you down along with the rejects, and the rejects is none other than Looney World or Toon World. Toon World, which is the world of the Looney Tunes. I don't know why the hell you're gonna call the Looney Tunes rejects, because first of all, people still remember them fondly, and you're still making shows with them. You have the Looney Tunes show, which is criminally underrated. There's Wabbit. I haven't seen that one, and I'm pretty sure they're making the second season of the HBO Max show of the Looney Tunes, the new Looney Tunes, or what was it called? I don't remember. But still, you're not gonna tell. They're not exactly rejects when you're still doing shows and we are still remembering them fondly. In which apparently this world is abandoned, with only Bugs Bunny living there, because apparently everyone else, they just went into their own way, probably tricked by this algorithm, and now LeBron James is like, hey Bugs, please, you gotta help me, we gotta rescue my son. And Bugs is like, oh, okay, now let's form a team. Oh, yeah, let's go. We're gonna have a good team. We're gonna get Superman or King Kong, and no. We're gonna get the other Looney Tunes. What? No. And basically then, the first quarter of the movie is basically going into all these Warner Brothers properties, getting all the Looney Tunes characters that they can afford, and of course getting ready for the biggest event, which is none other than the basketball game, in which during that time the algorithm technically persuades LeBron James' fake son to go against his father. So technically he reads what his son was doing in his own video game. He creates customizable characters to form his team, which is basically the data of other basketball players that I don't know who they are, and customizing them as monsters in order to create a team called I forgot it. The Goon Squad. Yeah, the Goon Squad. And of course we got the match, and basically it's technically the basic plot of the movie, in which I kind of stretched it out because there are some details that I did wanted to tell or explode in my case. So as you can see, you might be wondering, that sounds a little bit familiar to the other movie, because it is. It is a recycled plot, only with small differences here and there, and even the movie is aware of that. I hope you kind of brace yourself, because this is where a little bit my thoughts on this film is gonna go a little bit downhill. Because first of all, I gotta tell you about the acting, because the acting is really bad, awfully bad, I would say. I mean, like I think I already said that. Technically, the basketball player technically has the curse that once you get so famous, you think that you're gonna go into acting career, but the more you pursue that, it kind of proves out that you basically have no talent for acting. You have the talent to be just a basketball player. I mean, look at what happened to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had the talent for basketball. And then of course he tried baseball. I don't know how he tried his baseball career. I heard that maybe he wasn't as good at his basketball career. And then of course we had the movie, of course. then, of course, also we got Shaquille O'Neal, who he also got popularity on the big media. He's technically a talented basketball player, but his acting and his singing, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. But here's a little bit of a difference between Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, combined with LeBron James, because the thing is that Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal, at least you gotta give them credit that despite their bad acting, you can tell that there was some kind of charisma into these characters. And the charisma comes is that I seen apart from Space Jam and the other movies, I seen both Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal outside other stuff. Like in commercials or something like that, and when you kind of meet this person in real life, you can notice that their personalities are not exactly fabricated. That they're just kind of like in the movie, and like in Space Jam, Michael Jordan, when you see him having this bad acting, you can tell that Michael Jordan technically in real life he might actually kind of act like that. So you kind of buy a little bit of that in him. But LeBron James, you find that his emotions is really fake, and he can't emote. He can't make good expressions. Yeah, and the way he acts is, you can tell that he's just following a script instead of going all out. And worse, of course, is his voice acting. When he goes into the Toon World, it goes into 2D animation style, like in the trailer. Sorry about that. And you can tell that the guy can't even voice act. I know that I've seen worse voice actors, but for a caliber of this, he can't do it. He can't do it. Even his cartoon is a bad actor, and that's incredible. And the other actors, yeah, everything is bad. Even his fake family is terrible. They don't do emotions. They can make facial expressions that make us believe that there is an emotional arc in it. They can't do anything. Okay, granted, I'll say that Michael Jordan's family in the Space Jam movie, they were also fake. So, but at this moment, I think that they should have learned the mistake that when you make a fake family, when you make a fake family based on a real life person, it really sounds like there is some you're gonna find out that there is some manufacturer corporate manipulation. It's boy that it feels like the audience is fooling themselves. But I will give this a little bit on the silver lining about the acting, because the only actor who actually comes off a little bit entertaining and kind of comes off aware that what he's in it is actually Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle, I think it was called. Yeah, the villain, the algorithm. Because this guy, he's so over the top that sometimes he comes off kind of like unintentionally hilarious. And the way there are moments in which he overacts, but considering the world that he comes in is actually that one comes out as really forgiving. There was a moment in which I think he goes like, and that gave me a little bit of a chuckle out of it. Oh, and I also have to give a regard to the voice actors who play Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and all the lovable Looney Tunes, in which they do their job well. Minus a little bit the actress who plays Lola Bunny. What was the name of that actress? I'm gonna check it out a little bit here, and it's a little and it's a little bit too much, so I'm not gonna bother just in case. The voice actor who plays Lola is a little bit bland, I'll say, compared to Katsushi, because here's something that I kind of a little bit unnoticed about Katsushi. Katsushi somehow she comes off as has a kind of like a reputation of voicing attractive female characters, whether they are from a different species or humans. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Maybe she has a beautiful voice, considering that, of course, that she's a voice actress. Yeah, she's a voice actress. But the new one that has the new Lola Bunny, is not bad, but maybe you need a little bit more spice, I'll say. Alright, what else I can say? The pacing of the movie, many people complain that it's too long. While I tend to agree, that was almost never a factor that bothered me on certain instances. What else there is? This movie also has too many CGI special effects. It's a CGI fest. There's a lot of it in the surroundings, in which, in paper, it sounds cool. I'll give it that. But then you kind of notice how it might look better if they keep the 2D animation, because when they reach the Looney Tunes world, the 2D animation one, this is where actually I got a little bit invested into it, because besides bad acting, LeBron James, the Looney Tunes and the whole world looks really alive, and the animation is actually really good for 2D. And I'm not gonna lie that when they go into that multiverse and with the rocket, in which it kind of looks like like if you're looking at the world map of a Kingdom Hearts game. They go to the kind of like this Harry Potter world, Matrix world, which of course they get that little joke in which LeBron James is Hufflepuff, when honestly I think he is more of a Slytherin, especially in this movie. But I'm not gonna lie that I did kind of chuckle in some moments about the animation, and from this point I think that I gotta go also with some of the elements now that I reached that part, because this is something that I have to tell you, is that the humor comes off as really, really hit or miss, but with a lot of misses. Most of them are a lot of reference, pop culture references, Easter eggs. It's really dependent on that. The Warner Brothers is it's basically, how can I say, no stranger to that. It has done a lot of times, even in Animaniacs, which I kind of welcome it, and I kind of wish that the movies, instead of just doing Space Jam, it was just that, I'll say, because honestly I kind of enjoy, probably the most enjoyable part of the movie that I actually kind of give out a pass is when they go to these different worlds and we see the Looney Tunes basically interacting with other Warner Brothers properties, in which we see Granny and Speedy Gonzales in The Matrix. We see Daffy Duck and Porky Pig in the DC Universe world, in which all of the superheroes there are actually designed with the Bruce Timm character designs from the 90s. That is actually pretty cool. Then of course Roadrunner and Coyote and Mad Max Fury Road. I actually gave out kind of like a small glee when Tax appears out of nowhere to the space on the spaceship, and it's because Rick and Morty just dump it there. Even Justin Roiland is there, voicing both characters, with just Rick just saying, "Here, this is your demon. This is your problem now." And of course, Lola Bunny, she is of course on Wonder Woman. She's trying to become an Amazoness, and I know, and the look of some other people saying that, oh, I know what they were trying to do, especially because it's Wonder Woman. I wanna know if that Wonder Woman was actually voiced by Gal Gadot. And apparently that part, they wanted to make kind of like a storyline between Bugs and Lola, but unfortunately, that is out of the window. It disappears, and we forgot about it. And they're just there, just to save a kid. A really bad acting kid who is basically gonna save LeBron James' son. Oh, I wish I could be there saying that, that's not his son. Oh my god, the face that they're gonna see when I say, oh, that's not his son. And of course, continuing that, I also have to address that this is where also this kissing of their properties, well, at that part it comes off all as being beneficial. Then it becomes downright abusive. When we finally get to the game, as you see in the trailers, the Looney Tunes are turned into CGI. Technically not very good CGI with not very good designs. Not exactly early Sonic the Hedgehog design, but kind of close to that. I've seen better designs on CGI Looney Tunes than this. And of course, instead of all being in 2D, they decided to go with big giant special effects. The algorithm decides to bring out people to spectate the game by having different properties of the Warner Brothers just going there. It technically feels like a reunion of Ready Player One, with a lot of Easter eggs just going to watch the game. Ranging from Harry Potter characters, horror movie characters, Hanna-Barbera characters, Yakko, Wacko, and Dot I saw, and so on. And somehow, apparently this algorithm has the power of God, because he managed to transport people who are watching their games in their streaming services into the virtual verse, including LeBron James' fake family, and then he says, "Hey, if I win, I'm gonna keep all of you people in there, and and also I'm gonna delete the Looney Tunes." So pretty much that's what happens. And so then of course game on. Oh, did I also mention that the small alien from Space Jam also appears in two scenes? Yeah. Again, this Easter egg scene of having too many, a lot of the Warner Brothers property characters is really distracting. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes when you want to focus on the game, but when you are just looking at other people going like, hey, how's the story? Then, oh, look, it's the Iron Giant. Oh, look, it's the penguin. It's the penguin from Batman Returns. And then, okay, let's go to the game. Let's focus on the story now. Wow, isn't that Voldemort? Or I don't know if that was Voldemort, but for me it was actually, I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger from Batman and Robin wearing a robe. Or maybe it was Voldemort. I don't know. I even saw Pennywise, the Flintstones. Oh my God, it's so distracting, and even that thing technically distracts me from the main story, which is technically the game. And the game, I will say that it didn't feel animated, because as much as well animated the CGI is, it doesn't help that because they aimed it looks a little bit in between too bright or too dim or too grayish, too real. It makes it less colorful. dull and not very interesting. And it's sad because honestly, I kind of like the high stakes that they wanted to go through, in which this basketball game technically has an extra additional rule that you have to score on style to get multiplier points. Even though I kind of wish that they added a little bit more into that to make it more video gaming, kind of like Mario Strikers, I'll say. Okay, from that point, what else I should talk about? I do want to say about the humor. I'll say that I think I already talked to you that it's a little bit too that there's some things that I chuckle. Some of the Easter eggs, and the overacting of Don Cheadle is also sometimes come as passable. Although they're not exactly really funny. Sometimes you're like, yeah. Although there is one joke, or maybe one attempt of joke that Lebron James said. I think I got it written here. Oh, there it is. And I was like, really? You said that? Really? Considering that this movie wanted to make it really safe. This movie wanted to become too safe, which I'll get to that. But when Lebron James said that line, I was like, wow. You know what? I'll tell you what the line is. The line happened when almost at the beginning, when LeBron James and his fake son, they enter the world and they meet Don Cheadle algorithm character, and then the first thing that LeBron James says when he sees that Don Cheadle is an algorithm. His first word is, and I quote, "The computer is black." I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. That's his first impression. Oh, the computer is black. I will leave you on your own opinion for that, but when I heard that line, I kind of came out with a chuckle because it was like, wow. Boy. What else I have to say about this? The emotion. I think I gotta talk to you about kind of like the emotion, that supposed emotional arc that this movie wanted to give, and this is technically kind of like the lowest points of the movie. For me, the whole film, I couldn't get invested because the more this movie advanced, it kind of proved me how much I really dislike LeBron James. Probably he's not like that in in real life. Maybe he's better or maybe worse. I don't know. I don't know this person, but this movie gave me a bad impression to him because during the whole film, he's an asshole. He's a terrible dad. He's downright tyrannical to his children, and not even at the beginning of the film, you see kind of like no redeeming qualities to this guy. Not even the supportive fake wife technically supports him. And he's just like, go talk to him. And the guy is kind of like just trying hard to understand video gaming, but it's most likely you feel like he's kind of forced into it, and preventing. And I know that when you are parenting, technically you want to show your children how to deal with the world and everything, and I understand he wanted to show his child like he's always kind of quoting, is that you can't be great without any work, and that you have to be great you have to do work and all these things. Yeah, says the basketball player. Sorry about what is happening outside, I don't know why, but yeah, says the basketball player. A career that is not exactly 100% guaranteed. And at the same time, you're having fun! It's a game! Basketball video game designing is no different. It's no different. Even that I don't care about your what's your path in life that you choose, but still, when you find kind of like what you want to do, yeah, it goes with hardships and anything, but this movie kind of doesn't earn that kind of work. If you wanted to make something like that if you want to be great, you have to work for it. How about, like, for example, being in kind of like in a poor family that you want to do you want to reach kind of like a school or something like that, but you don't have enough money, so you decide to go get kind of like a part-time job or something like that. That is technically what a dedication to your work for your passion. But in this case, no, you don't earn that, and of course, LeBron James, even as a supporting father, is an asshole, and it doesn't go better how he treats the Looney Tunes. I mean, yeah, he has kind of like the idea of getting Superman or King Kong, but here's the thing. Buck at least had the right idea that he's gonna get his old pals, because that's his comfort zone, and his pals they have their own abilities. You don't technically have to be the best, and they just wanted to have fun, because that's the point of the Looney Tunes. But LeBron James is kind of like, he's not exactly coaching. He's just technically dominating the Looney Tunes, because. And when the time comes in the game actually they kind of reveal itself that they're playing with bullshit rules, and that they're basically scoring based on style, in which Looney Tunes is master of that. They have lots of style, but LeBron James is, no, you can't be loony. We gotta save my son. You can't. We gotta be serious because of my son and everything. And at this point, when we reach kind of like the second half of the game, they were kind of like, man, you're a bad dad or something like that. They feel disrupted because technically LeBron James doesn't let them. At this point, the Looney Tunes should have said that, you know what, LeBron James, you're an asshole. Screwed you. And instead of LeBron James going like, oh, you know what, maybe I did wrong. He didn't get a consequence for his actions, and the movie doesn't earn that, because to make us believe that there's an asshole character that goes through a change, they must suffer a consequence, something that affects them really, really deeply, and not exactly have to do this guy technically losing his fake son. Because technically he doesn't interact too much with his fake son. He just only saw that his fake son he become his opponent, and he feels, oh my god, so sad. But he needed a deeper consequence for that. Like, for example, in this case, it could have been like, for example, the Looney Tunes finally rebels against tyrannical LeBron James, and this time they do their own thing. But they find out that he finds out that the Looney Tunes are more successful doing themselves than of course boring ass LeBron James, who apparently he feels like somehow he feels like he's happy on seeing Bugs Bunny, but doesn't let him be himself. And it's funny because there was a moment in which Don Cheadle and LeBron James' fake son is actually having a little bit of a talk. Even though Don Cheadle, when he talks to the kids, sometimes he acts like a creep. The way he talks, as manipulative as he sounded, at least he was right. He was right. But of course, the movie technically pulled out a little bit of how can I say, what was it, the Mitchells versus the Machines, in which basically they wanted to find a way to make the AI kind of redeemable, because honestly the anger of the AI is a little bit legit, except for a little bit, how can I say, not technically earned. but then it's kind of scrapped down by the almost by the end, which I'm not gonna get too much into it. So yeah, basically this movie about saying that you gotta be yourself and you gotta be proud of what you do and be happy about this doesn't mesh. Doesn't mesh, especially considering that we have LeBron James who acts like an asshole, but he's still a lesser asshole even at the end. And speaking of hypocritical messages, I think that I have to address a little bit the elephant in the room because I do have my own opinions about this, and this basically harms very much this film. Okay. Number one, let's talk a little bit more about LeBron James. I can't say much about it. I'm just saying that LeBron James is he's basically kind of like a controversial figure except that people saying that, well, he is a basketball player, but apparently the media kind of tends to make him shine like he's kind of like the most important person in the world, and this movie is no exception. This movie is not an exception because the whole movie is like LeBron James is the greatest in the world. Is the best basketball in the world, and I was like, oh my god. It's a little bit close to dress LeBron James as Jesus. I mean, I don't know how he is on basketball. I don't know how he is as a person, but I don't know how good that guy is. I mean, at least in the other Space Jam, Michael Jordan wasn't. He was acknowledged because it's his movie, but they didn't show him that he's kind of like the most important person in the world. Because at least they show other basketball players, but although the other basketball players have their talent stolen, but still kind of show that there is a sense of rivalry and good sportsmanship between these players. But in this one, no, LeBron James is basically kind of like the most important person in the world. But no, honestly, if there's someone who is closer than Jesus, it's actually Don Cheadle, because apparently he has the power of God to transport people into this other world, and some of them are not exactly people that I know. Probably the only person the only other celebrity that I recognize that they use only for a cheap gag is when they brought up Michael Jordan into it. Oh, by the way, not Michael Jordan, Michael B. Jordan. Okay. And now the biggest controversy, apart from LeBron James, comes off as the removal of Pepe Le Pew, and of course the sexiness of Lola Bunny. Why? Because Pepe Le Pew is controversial because of his personality and his nature. That is what makes this character. Because we live in a society that that when people act like that, you're technically Harvey Weinstein, even though this character is lesser than that. But honestly, why don't you even if you wanted to go with that, why didn't you remove other problematic character? You have Speedy Gonzalez, in which because here's something about that. Speedy Gonzalez was never problematic with me. I'm like an American, and I really love Speedy Gonzalez. And you know what? I heard that he was voiced by Enrique Iglesias, and he was magnificent as Speedy Gonzalez. He was also a great character. So why didn't you remove him? Why? Why? Pepe Le Pew is problematic. So why didn't you remove him or other else? There's some other character that you should have taken out. Oh, jeez. And speaking of which, I also remember that, do you know that in this movie, Daffy Duck barely does anything? He's technically the manager. So there you go. For Daffy Duck fans, sorry. And about Lola Bunny, by the way. Honestly, I haven't technically a problem with her, with her basketball uniform, because this is how normally we dress up. They dress up, in basketball. Also, the sexiness of her is that honestly I was actually more annoyed because I like her sexy design, and I also like her design from the Looney Tunes show. And honestly, this her sexy design, it kind of showed that this character, despite being a female, it also shows her that he has confidence on her body. And you know what? Men can do that too. They can also take off their shirts and prove that, or wear, it's technically kind of like nature. And you know what? Anime also is technically not afraid to do that, and this makes us feel confident. Because here's the thing: no matter what media you go to, the sexiness appeal itself, it is a good selling factor. This is why Lola Bunny had fans. And this is why Space Jam, the other one, is still recognizable. So give it credit to that. So I have no problem with that. I mean, I'm talking a little bit. I'm not talking, I'm not talking exactly in a position like you think of. I'm talking a little bit on the design artist standpoint. But apart from that, which kind of comes off as in the same level of that. The one thing that I don't forgive is the pot mouth that the director says about this, because what he said about this, that is what I think is the most despicable thing about this movie. And honestly, I just realized it when I was returning home and I was looking at the news to see how it went. Very abysmal reviews, just in case. And then I found out this article about the director, and I'm not gonna say that it's. I probably am gonna have to say this because for the benefit of the doubt, but this director, he kind of began to call out people who were attracted to this character. He began to call them freaks and weird and everything. Dude, that's not cool, by the way. I mean, first of all, it's none of your business. Second of all, weird is cool. I like weird. The more weirder the world, the better. It makes it less monotone. Third, again, it's none of your business. It's their business. But then, I mean, that wasn't technically the biggest problem that I had. The biggest problem then came out when I keep reading about this bullshit director. And then came out saying that the reason why he took out the sexiness of Lola Bunny is because he said that I wanted to market it. This is something that a movie for kids, and I wanted to keep it for kids or something like that. You took out the sexiness of Lola Bunny because you wanted to target this movie for kids. You have a movie that has Mad Max Fury Road, Austin Powers, The Matrix, It, and Rick and Morty. think the target audience was for these characters. So about that little thing that you said, I have one thing to say. I want to say, hey director, you know what? Just shut the fuck up! I'm sorry if I made your ears explode. This is, if I found this director, this is something that I just wanted to say. You know what? I'm gonna close up a little bit more by saying that, yeah, the ending is technically underwhelming. It kind of broke up some rules that not even the other Space Jam movie did. It kind of glorified more LeBron James, even though he didn't also deserve it. He's still a bad actor. So this is technically all my thoughts that I have on a new Space Jam, a new legacy. Is not a good movie. It's not a good movie. At least I will say that I took that controversy aside. At least there are some parts that I took some enjoyment out of it, because it wasn't necessarily a miserable experience. Like I already said, I put this. It technically it almost reaches on the lowest bar compared to Tom and Jerry, but still, considering that all these things that it has a little bit in your face, it has technically, it's pretty much a huge vanity project. A vanity project that is used to make LeBron James look really good. So honestly, I'm not gonna be the kind of guy who'll say that, please don't watch the movie or something like that. You take your pick. I know that people normally are gonna enjoy it because, hey, whatever, it's the Looney Tunes. I was also your age. I was also an idiot who just went for a movie just because it's Looney Tunes and just took an enjoyment out of it. Now that I've grown up, I kind of became a little bit more cynical, and honestly, I'm not gonna take it away from you, but still I just try to be a little bit more observational, and I can see the difference between the one and the other. And I can see that the biggest faults that this movie has, because honestly, if Space Jam was a time capsule of the 90s, Space Jam: A New Legacy is mostly an evidence of how the new millennium kind of is pretty lame and pretty trying to play the safe side and not taking risks. It wants to play too safe, but and at the same time showing themselves how soulless Warner Brothers has become over the years. And honestly, it needed a little bit more spice to make it at least an okay movie. Maybe next time, don't remove characters. Don't remove stuff just because we are living in an era in which everything is overlooked. Because honestly, because Looney Tunes is mostly about rebellion. Are rebels, and that makes them appealing. Probably instead, I would like to see them also playing soccer, kind of like Mario Striker. That's technically a nice idea. I mean, I mean, there are football players also that were better known than LeBron James. You know what? I think I said enough. So I'll leave you this with this picture of Lola bunnies for your eyes.